Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Hounter64 channel. Today, I have another experiment for you today. Basically we are going to be talking about drummers, and why drummers are important, especially nowadays, because everyone does everything in their home studio. So, most people either get themselves a good old Steven Slate Platinum, get themselves a superior drummer, and then they call it a day and say, that's it, sounds good, I don't need a real drummer. I also want to preface, I have not heard the real drums at all yet. As you can see in my session, they are all muted, so I haven't even listened to them. He also sent me video, which I will probably look at when I'm editing. I haven't really watched that either, but you guys will get to see it all at once. So let's start with hearing the demo with the program drums, and then I'm gonna listen with the real drums. Of course, there is no processing on any of them, so I'm gonna also go back and process it after I hear it for the first time. I just want to hear a first impression. But let's get into the project. Let me do a couple precautionary things real quick.
1 hour later.
Let's see what his stuff sounds like. See, that's exactly what I was talking about. Just that the feel like you just can't really emulate, even if you, especially that like clean triplet hi-hat kind of feeling that you get there. Yeah, that's sick. That's sick. You got me there. You got me there, bro. You got me. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix these down real quick, and then we will take a final listen, and then we'll just talk about pretty much the differences between program and real drums.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Let's start with the program drums. Alright, and now let's go on to the real drums provided by my friend. So let's go ahead and get into the pros versus the cons on each one of these. So for one, the pros on Superior Drummer, of course, is that it's going to sound fantastic. It is modeled after a real drum kit. Of course, this thing has been mic'd to Jesus, as you can see with all these different tracks here. So that's why I don't really want to focus much on sound, more as the parts themselves, because interestingly enough, I found that a lot of the stuff that my friend over at Short Snout Studios did to be an even more beneficial section than what I could have even came up with. Like, for instance, the fill here on, at least on the drums, is pretty bad. So, that's, as you can tell, it was kind of like, I'm not exactly sure what to put here. Whereas if you had a real drummer, he came up with something on the spot and it absolutely sounded fantastic. See, like, it kept the feeling of the next groove that was about to come in while also simultaneously being a really good fill. So. And then on top of that, just the overall groove on this clean section. I wrestled with trying to program the right drum part here, actually, if you look. So this is pretty much the extent of all the Superior drumming I kind of had to come up with. And as you can see, I was trying to do 2 different velocities on 2 different hits to kind of mimic what you would get from doing a like a wrist movement with the hi-hat, if you were to, so like down hit, up hit, down hit kind of thing. So I was trying to emulate that on Superior Drummer, but as you can hear, it didn't quite turn out as well as I wanted it to. And then I was trying to throw in a little bit of a polyrhythm, but because Superior Drummer is so fixed to a grid and not really loose, which of course you can always quantize or humanize that later, you can really kind of feel the stiffness on the change rather than a natural kind of flow on the change. Whereas over here, my friend, he just sticked with the 100% pure groove. And I feel like that very much benefited this part a whole lot more, especially the fact that he can do different subdivisions on his hi-hat, which would take me forever to program because I would have to do velocities and then figure them out. And so just overall, subtlety and groove, I would real drummer 100%. And then not to mention just the added ghost notes on that snare are also really nice as well. Another thing I want to talk about is just the difference also here. So for here, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do for an intro, whereas he came up with... And I think I like his more because mine kind of felt more like it's gonna just go into a breakdown and yeah, it's a cool part, but it just doesn't give it much of an identity. And then here, the only reason I made this part so crazy is just because I told him there were no rules on this, so I was like, I'm gonna make my part just ridiculous. So that part's just absolutely ridiculous. I would not expect any real drummer to be able to play that, honestly. And then here, he kind of kept the same kind of feeling, that kind of, I don't want to say gypsy feeling, but it's kind of like that. It's like a little gypsy-ish, kind of like, you can tell I'm subdividing by the thirds, and then you have the constant coming in, keeping it, so it kind of feels like gypsies dancing around a campfire. You understand what I'm talking about, but that's of course, we both kind of went for a breakdown feel, whereas the thing that I found interesting was that our kick patterns differed a lot there. So for here, I did. So I was going more for accents with cymbals, whereas he kind of moved around his snare a bit more, giving it a bit more breathing room. Which are both correct. Either one would have done just fine. I just kind of made a big open chorus just to see if maybe things would change cymbal-wise, things, you know, or plenty of room for fills. So what I did here was I kind of try to mimic a ride by doing two different velocities, as you can see here. And then here I kind of have a little quadruple ride. Okay, as soon as Pro Tools wants to work with me. Like that. And then, but I still kind of kept accents with the cymbals, which you can see I kind of did different velocities there, and thus giving me kind of more of a wide open. But once again, like playing it by itself in Superior Drummer, I can totally feel a kind of stiff rigidness to it. It just doesn't have the same kind of flow to it that you would get with a normal drummer. And let's see what he played here. So once again, doing more of a, not really syncopation, but a subdivision with his snare and kick drums, which I think actually sounds fantastic. It's not the same thing over and over again, which is another thing that a lot of people fall into the pit trap of when they do program their drums. Is a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, this is good enough on the drums, and then they'll just copy and paste it. And that's not exactly something you want to do. That's going to bore your listener, and more importantly, it's going to be quicker for you, but it's going to feel like you kind of gave up on your programming, I guess. So we kind of had a little bit of the same kind of idea by doing like triplet runs between the snare and the kick drum, but overall, let's break down the lay categories. I am going to come up with 3 categories right now at the top of my head because I am dumb and don't script things before I film them. So the first category I want to talk about is time. How much time would it have taken it for program drums versus having a real drummer? Now, generally, when I go to record a real drummer in a live studio setting, I normally try to book an extra 1 to 2 hours for setup and tear down. Now, basically that just means they set up the drum set, get it how they like it, we go in, we put the mics up, and we get our sounds. Now, that can change throughout the process of recording, but generally I find it takes about an hour to set everything up, get the mics running if it's on a system that I know. Now, once the drums have been set up, so we'll say that we're real drums, we do have an hour worth of setup. By the time you're playing the song, I'm sure maybe he did 1, maybe 2 passes of the song, maybe he worked out 1 section. So I want to say that with this being a 2-minute demo, it probably would have taken him anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes just to lay it down. So we have an hour, we have 30 minutes, and then we would say another, let's say 30 minutes just for teardown, because tearing down is always easier than setting up. So with that in mind, it would be about maybe 2 hours overall to have done this session. Now, the thing about Superior Drummer is, yes, you were saving time on setup and teardown, whereas normally what I did was I kind of went in, I did a preset. Okay, so it's not like my normal thing. I actually do have a normal drum kit that I used for my band's album, but I just chose a preset. And so choosing a preset, 5 seconds, sure. Now, what I do want to talk about is how long doing all this would take. So I want to say that I probably took anywhere between maybe an hour to 2 hours to write all this. And then I probably came back, did another 30 minutes to an hour pass to set my velocities so it felt a little more realistic. And then, of course, you would spend maybe another 5 to 10 minutes doing humanization, quantizing. I want to say that this is probably around the same amount of time. However, that is nice, but we also need to keep in mind that that's just setting up a preset. Now, if you were to do this yourself, sure, you can come in here and now I can change all these symbols, I can change this symbol out, I can change that symbol out, I can get rid of a symbol completely, not to mention all these over here, which are just samples that layer over the actual thing. Now, that all comes in through here, through the mixer, which then you also need to set up, because once you set up your mixer, it then gets outported to Pro Tools itself as a session. So right now, I would say that honestly, overall time-wise, probably having a real drummer is going to save you a lot more time than having programmed drums. And I know that seems weird to say, but that's mostly because of what I also said earlier. A lot of people get into this copy and paste kind of groove, which, as you can see, I did the same thing. You can see copy, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then maybe I change one or two things around. But that's just something, generally, if I were doing this for an actual release and not just a demo, I would try to change up pretty much everything, try to emulate what a real drummer would do. And that is going to also take extra time, unfortunately. That's just how the way, that's just the way that this works. Hey guys, real quick, this is Editing Devin. I just wanted to clear up a discrepancy here. So when we were actually talking about saving time with Superior Drummer versus a real drummer, I actually forgot to mention that yes, it does take longer to program Superior Drummer. However, the nice thing about having Superior Drummer is that if you ever want to change the drum part at any moment, you can always go back to the original file and change it and then re-export it, and it'll take a couple of seconds. Now, if your drummer played a wrong section or you notice something wrong, you'd have to go back and take another take, which could take anywhere between another one of those 15 to 30 minutes. So in this case, actually, Superior Drummer is the better choice. Thanks. So moving on from time, I want to go on to the next thing, which of course is going to be groove, which is a very important thing, of course, with drums. So any song, any riff can be interpreted a number of ways. You can, like, let's just go with this beginning riff here. I could always go with the right, which would give you that kind of gypsy kind of feeling, or I could just go with the like an 80s kind of feel, like I did with my Riders. And that's just two ways you can do it. You could always do something else. You could do syncopation. You could do a time signature within a time signature if you really want, for all you prog guys out there. But basically what I want to say is I do have background experience in playing drums. I've played drums for a couple of years, and even saying that, I would still come back and I'm making terrible fills like these. And that's just a terrible fill, right? But there's no going around that. Whereas having a real drummer who's probably been playing a lot longer than I have and practices probably every day, which I don't practice drums, he comes up with a fill like, which you can already tell which one wins. And then on top of that, this whole clean section is derived all about fills. I mean, not about fills, about groove. So. Right? Versus over here where you can feel that stiffness coming in. almost embarrassing to go back to the program drums. So once again, overall groove, I'm going to say that the real drummer is going to win. Now, this is where I'm going to probably side more with the program drums, and that is in terms of mixing. So mixing wise, as you can already see on the real drum tracks, I have had to make a couple of aux-ins and then do some extra processing on that, and then processing on the real thing, just to kind of get it to even compete with just preset stock Superior Drummer. The only thing I had to do with Superior Drummer, honestly, was put on this here, just because the low end in the kick was honestly overpowering, and it still kind of is. Now, mixing the Superior Drummer drums like this within the mixer for a demo, it's instant, done. I don't have to do anything. There's the presets already set there. I'm already good to go. Whereas with this, I have to now worry about, where is the microphone? Do I need to sample replace a certain thing? Which I tried my best not to sample replace. I think the only thing I sample replaced was actually the kick drum here. And that's just because the kick drum that I was having had a lot of overtones, and I felt like trying to cut all of them out was actually doing more harm than it was doing good. So I think I actually have the recording of me processing. I think it took maybe about, I want to say 30 to 45 minutes in order to get all these drums mixed up and ready for the demo, at least. And honestly, I would say they came out pretty good. I wouldn't say they're Now, I wouldn't say that they're album ready, but at the same time, I want to keep in mind that I have, what, maybe 6, 7 tracks, it looks like. 7 tracks, so I have a kick, a snare, the toms, and 2 overheads. Whereas if I go over to my Superior Drummer, I have 3 microphones for each kick, like 3 microphones for the snare, a hi-hat, and then close mics and far mics and room mics. So it's kind of an unfair comparison to compare them sound wise, but I will say mixing wise, Superior Drummer is definitely going to win that one. But overall, it's still going to be probably 2 against 1. And if I had to choose, I would always choose a real drummer over a program drummer. Of course, not all of us have access to a real drummer, sadly, because the great drum shortage in the metal scene is quite real. And honestly, I hope that all you drummers out there, please look for us. We need drummers. Us in the metal community, we all need drummers. Guitar player, bassists, we all need drummers. Just make yourselves known, please. Put in the comments. Join my band. We'll start a new band. We'll call ourselves the Teletubbies or something. The Wiggles, the Anti-Wiggles, maybe. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in for real versus program drums. I know it's not the exact thing you're looking for. I'm sure you're looking for one-on-one comparisons, but honestly, I thought that this would be more entertaining to see. If you enjoyed this video or you want more videos like this, be sure to leave a like on the video, comment on the video, and if you do enjoy what I do on this channel, then you can go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to be doing, I think I'm going to be doing a tutorial video next week, just talking about the ins and outs, I guess, of recording. It's not going to be super in-depth. It's just going to be a nice little brief summary. I know these videos get very long, and that's my fault. I talk a lot. But I think I'm just going to go through a basic list of how to get your tracks laid out, to get them in a program, because really that's honestly all you really need to do. And then if you're not confident in your mixing abilities, you can always send them off to someone who can mix them for you. But I have been Haunter64. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my friend Short Snout Studios. He is the drummer who did the demo for this. He has a channel where he posts covers, and you should go give him a follow. Thank you.
Donkey, donkey, donkey. What you doing in my swamp, donkey? Donkey.